be a bitch, Fitch. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And hello, brown-haired niece. You continue to exist. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film. Ready or not, there's no more words to the song. No, I fucked it up.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
No, you know what? Today...
We're gonna keep going, though.
Yep, you know why? Because, dear listeners, dear God...
wait, dear listeners, do you feel a sense of deja vu?
I hope you do. I hope everyone's ears are ringing.
One more fun factor. We're recording this at 9 p.m. on Friday the 13th.
That's right. And there's something special. Yeah. But there's something special to that in particular. And that is... we already did this episode.
What? Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day.
My system, or me, don't know which, basically had the wrong mics recording.
Yeah.
And we love you so much that rather than send you the garbledy-gook nonsense that recorded off of my laptop internal microphone with us not pointing our mouths even remotely at it, we're going to do the whole podcast again.
Listen, I'm going to say this, just once and for all. Matt has an entire recording studio built in his apartment for this specific purpose. So if we have had one glitch like this in 230 episodes, that's still a pretty great hit rate, and I'm still very thankful that we're here. So no skin off my back.
I know.
To do this again.
It's been a day, Shahir.
But also, you know what's great about this?
What?
We get to retime our jokes, re-perfect everything that we did. I will say this: that episode that we dropped this afternoon for Ready or Not, greatest podcast episode in the history of podcasting. Full stop. This American Life, Radio Lab, Today Explained, The Daily. They got nothing on what we did this afternoon,
I guess.
So if today's, if this is a little bit like, it's just a little bit less than what we did, which was so great.
We're going to act so natural that after this, we're probably only going to bring this fact up maybe like 90 or 100 times.
I think this actually, because we didn't discuss this on the previous one. So
no,
let's go a little bit live here.
Oh, shit.
Favorite, because we are recording on Friday the 13th, and I feel that the reason the recording went out because it was Friday the 13th.
Okay.
What is your favorite Friday the 13th with Jason Voorhees? Or not, as it turns out, because the first one, remember the first one didn't have Jason Voorhees.
I know. You know what? I'm going to go straight up Jason X.
Jason X.
When he goes to space.
Oh, is that when he goes to space? All right. You know what I think is Jason's like a real prankster? He's like pulling plugs out just as we turn around and stuff. He's not trying to murder anyone anymore because that's so passe.
Of course.
And we live in he doesn't want to be seen as like toxically bad.
Yeah.
He just wants to like mess with us a little bit because that's his MO. That's his brand, baby. That's what he does.
I guess.
I like Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Yeah.
Jason Takes Manhattan?
Jason Takes Manhattan. I don't remember that.
I remember that because for a couple of reasons. One, I think it was actually the first Jason movie I actually saw. I videotaped it off a late night screening.
Perfect.
And watched it again. And I watched it by myself, and I got really scared. It was the first time I heard the What is it? What's Jason saying? Is it Jason?
No.
Is he just saying?
No, he doesn't say that. That's just a theme.
What is the theme though? What does it say?
Oh, I'm not saying it. It's just.
Yeah. What is it?
It's like
it sounds like he's saying
mouth noises.
Say it again. Is he trying to say kitchen but missing the vowels?
He's not saying any
kitchen.
Oh,
is
man.
he hungry? Is that what it is?
You're just gonna do this the entire
this
time.
Is gonna be the worst. I also loved in Jason Takes Manhattan. He goes up against a boxer. And the boxer fights Jason, and then Jason takes one swing at the boxer because Jason, basically he's got to go mano-y-mano with whoever he's at. So if you come at him with a knife, he'll come back at you with a knife. And if you come at him with your fist, he'll go back at you with the fist. And he hits the boxer once, and the boxer's head flies off.
I mean, that's fair. Listen, when it was Freddy versus Jason, which also close favorite for me.
Yeah.
They had some grudge matches, and he threw Freddy around a lot.
Yeah. But Freddy. Now this is. You know what would have been fun there is if Freddy went into Jason's dream.
He did,
and then got freaked out and was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Oh, he got freaked out.
Like if Freddy was like, "Oh no, sir, I'm not coming in here. No. I don't want no part of this."
No, well,
I would have loved that. But anyway,
fair.
Friday the 13th. Email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com with your favorite Friday the 13th. And if I hope, dear listener, you haven't had any bad luck like we have. In the scheme of things, I think losing a podcast recording that we managed to, we'll be able to redo again isn't that a big a deal.
No.
But hopefully you had a safe and prosperous Friday the 13th.
Indeed. Speaking of emails and people writing us in and the fact that everyone should and could do that, we do have some emails this week.
Yeah.
So let's
I
read
love
them.
Jason to email us with.
All right. This first email I've totally never read before in my entire life comes from Zachary. He says, "Hi, Matt and Shahir. I just recently started listening to your podcast and found it through Matt's role on Extra Credits, but this has wildly overshadowed it in my eyes. And when I read this the first time, I actually had I was like, oh, I had like a very heartfelt moment, so I want to continue that feeling on. You guys have great chemistry together, and hearing your discussions, even on a movie that I don't particularly care for, is enlightening every week. You guys have inspired me to see more movies, and now I'm in the works of starting my own podcast about movies in this parallel dimension where, of course, that could possibly happen, because we all know, I mean, the asterisk is over the only in our name for a very specific reason. It's called The Screenwriter's Nightmare." Oh, that's I mean, yeah,
it's appropriate.
Yeah. Thank you again for your discussions. They keep me very entertained and help me to critically think about a ton of movies I've only glanced at in the past. Well, thank you, Zachary.
Thank you, Zachary. I'm very curious as to what The Screenwriter's Nightmare could be.
100%. I guess what would be if you were a screenwriter?
I have a very specific example.
Do you? Where'd it come from?
I've just thought of it right now.
Oh,
this
wow.
is actually
This is a new one?
Yeah, I just legitimately thought about this right now. You are the person hired to rewrite Robert Towne's script for Chinatown. And you're told to make this make sense. That to me is the screenwriter's nightmare. Or you're told to punch up Being John Malkovich by Charlie Kaufman. That's the screenwriter's nightmare. Or you're told to make sense of the underage I can have sex with I'm not having sex with a minor scene in Transformers. You're told to like make that not feel so creepy in a Michael Bay movie.
But you have to keep that happening?
Yeah, but it's still got to keep
you have to keep that moment in
the movie. But you
Transformers 4.
Is that
Transformers?
You know what? I haven't seen that movie. I just know about
It's real confusing because that's the 4th Transformers movie, but also Marky Mark's first Transformers movie.
You know what I'm bummed I didn't see? I haven't seen Bumblebee yet.
I heard good things about Bumblebee.
Very good things about it. Directed by Stephen Knight, who oddly is the son of I'm not sure the first name, but the Nike, the CEO of Nike. It's his son.
Oh, really?
Is the director of Bumblebee. He also directed Kubo and the Two Strings.
Which that movie is legit.
Yeah. I hear very good things. So I'm bummed I didn't see Bumblebee. I feel like
you're Bumblebee.
I'm Bumblebee that I didn't see a Bumblebee with the Bumble. No, that's getting into my son's humor. Because I liked the first Transformers a lot. I think the first Transformers has specifically one scene has a moment of genius in it.
Yeah.
It's the one where the Transformers are trying to hide out in the house, and they're all
in and around the house.
Yeah, it's basically like a Charlie Chaplin movie with Transformers, and I was like, that's brilliant. I love it. I love every moment of that. Then part 2, part 3, part 4. So yes, thank you, Zachary, for your email. The screenwriter's nightmare, in my estimation, would be having to make sense of one of those screenplays, or rewrite Chinatown.
Fair. What else we got, Shahir?
We have an email from my buddy Stephen in New Zealand. Thank you for writing us in. And I've read this before, so I'm just going to pretend I have read it before. Hi guys, finally got to listen to the podcast on American Factory. You covered a lot of my thoughts and more, but did I wonder, how did you guys feel about the shooting? The locked-off shots are glorious and truly beautiful, but I found every time the camera moved, the rolling shutter artifacts were very distracting. In their publicity photos, I saw that they are shooting on a Canon C100 M2. Buckle up, listeners. We're going to get a little technical right now.
Let's do it.
So just hang on for a second here. And while I think it's a good entry-level production camera, for me, it wasn't quite up to the task of serious doco work. Also, some of the footage is obviously taken from DSLRs and a few times on a phone. Fortunately, the content was interesting enough to help me get focused on what was happening rather than how it was acquired. Good sound helped too. They're obviously skilled doco makers, but their budget might have let them down a bit. With Netflix and the Obamas moving into the doco world, do we think there might be now a better market and bigger budgets for doco makers?
Well, first and foremost, kudos for the using of the word doco.
You like that?
I like that.
I feel like it's a New Zealand thing. I don't know. Maybe...
I've started putting O's at the end of things.
Right.
I like doggo.
Podcasto.
Sure. Yeah. Transformers-o.
Yeah. I'm gonna get some ramen noodles.
Yeah.
No,
sure.
None of this makes sense.
But I just when I was reading this, I was delighted by the abbreviation of documentary film into doco.
And because it's actually technically wrong as well, right? It's docu.
I don't think it. No, it's not technically wrong.
It is technically wrong.
No, you can't have a technically wrong abbreviation that's like a shorthand of colloquialism.
Docu. Should be docu.
We know exactly what he's talking about. Therefore, Steven's not wrong.
Okay. I want to get. I actually really love this question from a technical point of view because I think while I love the sentiment of the idea that we can make bigger budget documentary films,
sure,
because there's more focus on. I think there was this real period around Michael Moore's what was the Columbine documentary? Bowling for Columbine. Around that period, people and the rise of Morgan Spurlock as well. People were like, oh, documentaries are where it's at. People can actually really get into this. And there've been probably a couple of big scale documentaries. I'm thinking of films by Jeffrey Reggio, things like the Katsi trilogy, Kiana Katsi,
yes, yep,
whatever the other two are, Power Katsi, and
Katsio.
Yeah, Katsio, Katso. That's the Katso trilogy. But I disagree with the sentiment that you need higher quality or bigger cameras or, like using REDs or anything like that. Although, again, thinking of just, I guess it might be late at night, but I'm just thinking of like interesting things. But I know, was it Werner Herzog did a documentary about cave paintings and he did it in 3D. So it's so he shot it with 2 3D rigs. My point here is the reason why I think American Factory works so well is actually because they're using smaller cameras, which allows the interviewees and the people in the rooms not to feel like there's a big imposing thing recording the conversations that they're having. If the more invisible the documentary filmmakers can actually be while still capturing great material, I think that's actually better for the filmmakers.
Oh, 100%.
Because it allows them to capture more candid moments. Like there was the moment in American Factory. So listeners, please go back to listen to our episode about American Factory with wonderful guest Zishan Aleem, who came and joined us for that conversation. I think there's a moment in that documentary where a factory worker basically tells the filmmaker that they're, and I don't think they realize this, but essentially that they're committing a crime, like something that would be highly illegal.
Yeah.
And I wonder about whether you'd be able to capture that if you had a big camera rig, if you came in, sit up, put up lights and all that stuff.
No way.
Whereas if you could just walk into a room and be like, oh, can you just tell me about this? And the camera was just there, or you just kind of like threw it up. I think that's actually better in those situations. So Stephen is a TV news camera operator, documentary filmmaker,
Gotcha.
and narrative film. He actually helped me on a project recently as well. So he knows a lot about this. I just come from a point of view that the smaller footprint you can have in these scenarios is actually a better case for the filmmakers.
I think I agree with that for the most part. In this particular case, I did. I'm trying to even think if I even noticed the rolling shutter itself. Right. But I guess it also. I mean, there's an interesting sort of threshold between like a technical, I don't want to say acumen, or like showing what you're spending your money on the screen. Yeah. And like for this, I thought it was a very good looking documentary.
Yeah,
but
it's well colored.
And also, the second something is a doco, I do forgive a lot of technical aspects. And if the sound and the color work is up to snuff, then I'm good to go. But I can totally see the gripe, Stephen. I just didn't see it in the moment.
I don't think it was a gripe. I think he's just asking like an interesting question about documentary filmmaking. The other thing, just one final point on this. I think our vernacular to captured footage has changed in the last 10 years because of the advent of iPhones and the fact that everyone has a camera in their pocket now. I think we're much more open to seeing footage that looks a little bit janky because we're
better or worse.
For better or worse, because we're exposed to it, and what we're more interested in is like the actual content behind it. And sometimes that content is heightened by the fact that it's like created in a sort of ad hoc fashion. A great fictional deployment of that idea is, of course, the Blair Witch Project, which basically uses handheld DV style footage to heighten the terror because it's about how there's a relationship between the audience and what's being captured.
It was handheld film though, wasn't it? A film camera?
No, it's DV. It's a video.
It was DV.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I thought in my brain Blair Witch was like, oh, they found the film canister.
No, because the joke about the Blair Witch Project was it's actually a $40,000 film, and everyone was like, dude, you could have made this for $20. Everyone was like, I love me some Blair Witch Project. So thank you, Stephen, again for writing us in at at onlymoviepodcast at gmail.com or hitting us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. One final thing I wanted to talk about, just because it's Friday the 13th and this news just came out today, which is great that we got a chance to redo.
It happened after the first record?
It happened after the first recording.
Wow, okay, fresh stuff for me.
You got a drink in your hand?
Yeah, here we go.
Let's pour one out for the death of MoviePass, which is going completely offline as of tomorrow.
I did not hear that.
September 14th, MoviePass is no longer with us. Did you read? There's a fascinating article about, because I was always kind of like on the side of MoviePass in terms of like the little engine that could.
I was until I wasn't.
Well, I just like the idea that they were shaking up the industry and like changing. And I think for better or worse, MoviePass has done that. Now you have the Regal subscription model.
AMC.
You got the AMC subscription model. I actually met an economist in New Zealand recently, or an economist who was visiting me here.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about the notion that all the nature of transactions are all changing, which is that he basically was talking about the fact that prior to 2008, you could still buy, like you owned your iPhone. Now you buy it kind of on a payoff system, and he said essentially what you're getting there is actually just a subscription to
you're leasing it
to the OS system.
Yeah,
and he was talking a lot about how like everyone is slowly shifting away from delivery of products to delivery of service.
Same in gaming, man.
You
don't
don't own anything.
Again, today I bought, though I'm not a huge fan, though I'm not as against it as most other people. The Epic Game Store.
Oh yeah.
Epic is the company that does Fortnite and like all that stuff. But they made a deal on PC that they get Borderlands 6 months before Steam does, and it was a big hubbubaloo. But I love Borderlands, and I will do. It's another launcher and all that stuff. But again, even in the licensing agreement of everything, like. I don't own what I just bought. I paid $60 to essentially, like, you think you'll be able to download it forever.
But also, like, would an interesting game model for that be, rather than paying $60 for it, what if you paid $2 a month? Like for example,
that's what I thought Stadia was going to be,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's not. You pay a subscription and then you
still have to buy the
$60 games on Stadia. And look, Google does a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Google runs half of my life and business, but also Google, as a company, for better or worse, tries a bunch of different stuff, see what sticks, and then just abandons stuff wholesale if it doesn't work. So if Stadia somehow tanks, and people have dumped like. Because you're like, even with Borderlands today, like I bought it and then I downloaded all of the game onto my hard drive. And in a world where maybe the Epic Game Store goes away, maybe there's a hack someone makes where I can still play Borderlands, right?
Right.
Because I have the data.
Yeah,
but Stadia, you don't have the data.
You don't have the data. It's a streaming service essentially for a CPU.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're buying a game that's not, the data's not even on your hard drive.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I feel like we're going to get to a point in our culture where you're going to walk into a person's apartment and there's going to be nothing there. It's just going to be literally, there's no couch, there's no tables, there's nothing until you put on a pair of goggles, which you have to pay a subscription service for. And all of a sudden, everything that you think is there is there. You know what I mean?
Pretty dope.
Yeah, I think
until the electricity goes out.
Until the electricity, and then and then like everyone's, like the electricity goes out, the Matrix turns off, and we're back to it. Anyway, MoviePass is
MoviePass is dead. I don't think the other services would have come as quickly to America had MoviePass not exist. I understand in the UK and a couple other places there were already these services, and MoviePass kind of took the model from them and was like, "What about America?"
Yeah.
But I don't think that we would have been pressured enough.
You got to read this article. I don't know which magazine it was in or which.
Then how am I going to read the article?
You could Google it.
I can't.
You could Google it.
Google article on
MoviePass, and it basically went through their.
Give me something else to Google other than MoviePass.
I actually believe it might have been Forbes or Business Insider.
Okay.
But it was an interesting article about their business practices and how shady it actually was there, to the point where they were hemorrhaging money so much that they would the CEO or someone in management made staff reset everyone's passwords so that they couldn't log in to go see a movie. And then they were constantly changing things so that they couldn't do it. And then the other thing was MoviePass actually tried to become like a Spotify, so they would hold like parties at certain events, and they had DJs coming, but no one would turn up because it was still a weird thing, and they had influencers come through.
They're the Fire Fest of movie subscription services.
That's really what it sounded like. It was very akin to Fire Fest. So at any rate, Friday the 13th is the last day of MoviePass. If it
so suiting,
you wouldn't you've passed the date if you're listening to this podcast, but you could probably. I hope you got to see one more screening of what would you have been able, like, how narrow did the field
it got
get?
real narrow by the end.
But,
like, it let you see like maybe the Goldfinch at like 2 p.m. on a Wednesday
in like Tucson or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
or
nowhere near you.
Yeah, no, the only screening was like 1,000 miles away.
But it would give you the phone number of someone who would leave their audio on while they watched it there. So there's a great video, and you can search, I think it's called Ask a CEO, and they do the CEO of MoviePass, not the real one, but it's an actor playing how desperate he is to questions and like trying to basically farm out ideas from the audience about what MoviePass should do or what people want. It's very, very funny. Check it out.
You know what? Okay, so now moving into the film that we're actually going to discuss, I feel like the family in Ready or Not, the Los Ladamas,
yes,
they would move into subscription gaming services. That's the pact that they will make for sequels of this movie. Matt, can you tell us what Ready or Not, a movie I'm very excited about, is about?
Yeah, I absolutely can. A bride's wedding night takes a sinister turn when her eccentric new in-laws force her to take part in a terrifying game.
Chickers? Was it Chickers?
No, but like
Tiddlywinks?
So okay.
Connect 4. It was Connect 4, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Connect 4.
Play Connect 4 with my toddler. It is terrifying.
Go for it. I win.
You never know when the pieces are going to be thrown against the wall.
I just want to say something real quick up top about before we get into the games and the movie and everything. This is the first film in a long time that I knew absolutely nothing other than the movie poster standee I saw in like movie theaters when I'd go see other films. I knew nothing about this.
Oh, you kind of had like the trailerless experience.
I actually thought, based on just glancing and walking by the standee, I thought it was like a period, like a Western period piece.
I could see that.
And because she's got the bandolier with the elephant gun ammunition.
Her dress is slightly antiquated.
And it looked like sort of old, even though it turns out that it's dirty. Like and like everyone around, in the halo of people, all were wielding old-timey weapons.
What would the Ready or Not Western be?
I have no idea. I did not know what this thing was.
Instead of hide and seek, they'd be playing Russian roulette, right?
Maybe. But then, so it was a real refreshing ride when I
Did you kind of enjoy that experience of like not knowing anything?
So in this case, absolutely yes. Yeah. I don't think that would be that. So I'm too curious about.
Did you watch? So you didn't even watch the trailer after we talked about doing this movie?
No,
okay.
no. And the for things I am actively invested in, cinematic universes or Star Wars or whatever, like those type of things.
Yeah.
I like knowing the information early, not like spoiler level early, but like I'll watch the trailer.
Yeah.
Like I like that I think Palpatine laugh in that trailer. Like I'm like ooh, and that got me like whatever.
That's a spoiler for me, but
for you, all right. Well, you never know. It could have been Jar Jar. No one knows. No one saw a thing.
I would love that so much. if this has all been building up to a return of Jar Jar. Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, it was just a really nice experience.
It's good, right? Like it feels. Here's the thing. I think you might have the perception that because I don't watch the trailers, I don't know what movies are about and what's happening, which is not the case. I think I'm fairly up to date about a lot of movies.
Sure.
And the thing that I'm just trying to avoid without watching the trailer is I don't want to see the moments out of context. That's real. I don't mind knowing what the synopsis. In fact, I want to know what the synopsis of most movies are. I don't mind knowing little plot details. What I don't want to do is see moments. I don't want to see the moments. Like you don't
want to be waiting to piece it together in your brain. Like I know this takes place on a cruise ship. When's the cruise ship scene?
Exactly. I don't want to be thinking ahead of the movie. So I love it when we went to the same screening. I turned up a little bit later than you. It was almost empty.
You broke a chair.
I did. I broke a chair. I was like that buffoon in the front aisle who was like waddling in late. Like
Jamie and I are sitting back center, like row J out of a theater of a full alphabet, right? And Shahir, I think you like sitting a little bit closer than I do normally.
You know what it was? Can I just tell you why I actually did that?
Okay.
It's because we've had this conversation before where you're like, if you pick a seat, you goddamn stay with that seat. And so I'd pick the seat. And
I meant more of like if you have it on your ticket stub.
Yeah, it was yeah. So I picked that seat, and then I saw you guys there, and I was like, no, I'm gonna stick to my seat.
But also, I texted you our seats so you could pick a seat next to my seat.
I actually didn't get that.
I wasn't just a dick. But so Shahir sits down about 2 or 3 rows ahead and against an aisle, and then we just hear clunk, and me and Jamie look over, and he just like triumphantly, like he killed a bear, like holds up the armrest of this seat, and then I'm like, what just happened? And he puts it down and he walks to another seat.
I'm literally like Mystery 3000. This
Mystery Science Theater.
Mystery Science Theater. This 3000. The entire movie experience. I'm like walking in front. I'm throwing chairs up. I'm a monster of a human being.
It was very enjoyable.
And but no, I wanted to sit in my designated seat, which I don't think I did in the end, by the way.
No, you didn't, because the seat was broken. It's not your fault. It's not you didn't know your own strength.
But you know what I love? What I love is the 20th Century Fox logo appears. Fox Leadership Pictures starts up, and then I just have this. I have this moment before almost everything I see now, complete blank slate. I'm like, I don't know what I'm about to get. I don't know any images I'm about to see. I literally often, because I haven't been inundated with the trailer or anything like that, I sit down and it's like, oh, what is this I'm watching right now? And what I like about that experience is I have to come to terms with the film on its terms. You know what I mean? Like I have to watch it on its terms.
Like it's a sentient being?
No, I am not bringing any preconceptions to this film. So
you are. You're just not bringing, because you even said yourself, you like researching, plot points, and you have things like you're bringing some stuff, but not visually.
What I knew about this film is that there was a wedding, and that there was a game that had to be played, and the game was a little bit like The Most Dangerous Game. That's what I brought to it.
Okay.
And so then I was like, okay, what am I in for? And I love just that experience of like having to like deal with the movie on its own terms. It was like, how does this tell me the story? I've got no context for the story that you're about to give me. So is it going to work? Is it going to actually play to what I think it does? And I guess I'll go first.
Do it.
I was absolutely delighted with this film. This is just a terrific ride of a movie. It's a funhouse ride of a movie, more so than It Chapter 2, which is the movie we discussed last week. But it is an incredible...
Though there is a physical funhouse in It Chapter 2.
Which is nowhere near as fun
right.
as this one.
There we go.
But I loved that the concept of this movie, the idea that there is this extraordinarily wealthy family that has this unusual ritual that they do for new members of the family, so to speak, where people have to like play a game or choose out of a special magic box a particular game, and some people might get chased, some people might get checkers. If you get hide and seek for some reason,
oh fuck,
it's all on apparently. The conceit for that I think is so strong because it's built on such great dynamics. The fact that this is Samara Weaving's character Grace is a woman who's been brought up in foster homes.
Yep.
Who's being brought into one of the wealthiest, most extravagant, kind of rich and affluent families.
Game designers.
Game owners.
Game owners. And actually, to be fair, they do. When I first heard, it's like, oh, it's the gaming family, or as they call it in the trailer, the Dominion, right? I was like, how the hell did they afford all this shit? And then they sort of tell the story a little bit, which I liked, about like how the father, the great grandfather, and everything, and then how this guy, who is the current father, the patriarch of the family, basically was like, and then I bought 4 sports teams, and I was like, there it is.
Yeah, there you gotta go. I mean, I love that. Like I was saying this earlier as we recorded this conversation earlier today, that this, I don't know if this was a blacklist script, but it certainly feels like it was a blacklist script. And for those who don't know, a blacklist script, there's an online screenwriting. It's not a competition, but it's an online screenwriting service.
No.
I guess it's not even a service. Basically,
it's a list.
Leonardo DiCaprio's company,
Made a list.
would basically get all of their production executives together at the end of every year and say, what are the best unmade feature scripts that you've read this year? And they would put together this list, and they'd call it the blacklist. If you're a screenwriter, if you might be thinking about the screenwriter's nightmare, what you want to do is get on that blacklist, because now it's a thing. If you have a script that appeared on the blacklist, that is a hot commodity.
Also, I said it before and I'll say it again, counterintuitive name. When you are blacklisted in an industry, that is normally a bad thing. That means you cannot be hired in it. But in this case,
right,
it's a good thing to have your script blacklisted. Not you as a screenwriter blacklisted, because that would be bad. But your actual paper and words on it, if that gets blacklisted, you're almost guaranteed to go to the top.
What I love about what you just said is it feels like you're learning language for the first time. It feels like you're learning a foreign language for the first time.
Yeah.
Like you're like, blacklisted traditionally means
exactly.
This.
I just went through a whole yeah.
Sometimes you can be really cool.
I watched
in
the
summer.
I watched the whole Muzzy series on Film Lingo. So
what's Muzzy?
You don't know Muzzy?
I don't know.
Je suis la jeune fille? Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Maybe they didn't have it in New Zealand. Muzzy was
side tangent. Let's stop it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Muzzy.
What is this?
Wow.
What is? I didn't know. You didn't know what the blacklist
That's
was.
fair.
I don't know
That's
what Muzzy is.
So Muzzy was a thing that they tried to sell you during Saturday morning cartoons, or try to sell your parents of, where it was a cartoon monster that would teach you languages.
Muzzy was a bear?
No, he wasn't a bear.
Muzzy wasn't a bear?
No, Muzzy wasn't a bear. It was like, those hard shell VHS tapes, basically.
Okay.
Or you could order them in French or Spanish or Russian or like whatever. And I just always remember, because there was always a little girl that just said, because it was the French tape in the thing, goes, "Je suis la jeune fille," which means in French, I am a little girl.
Huh.
And I always wanted Muzzy, and I never got Muzzy. Now I just speak English, but now film the Muzzy script on film. I can't believe my poorly timed, late 80s joke didn't land for you.
Well, what did land for me was that terrible, terrible segue. Back to the movie, back to the Los Damas film. We're back in the present day, and I was so excited by this conceit that it's such a well executed film. It's such a well designed film. It has this sort of sense of escalation, and the other great thing about this movie is it doesn't overstay its welcome. It literally is out to tell this one story of this one girl and her one night, and it never goes beyond that. Never tries to open up the world. There's some interesting developments which we'll get into when we get into spoilers, but it doesn't go beyond what we need the experience to be. Now, my criticism of this film, and it's very minor. This is so slight. This is more to do with my excitement for what the premise of this film is that I felt they could have gone a little bit further with the social critique that was being used as a backdrop for this film. So the social critique here obviously has to do with wealth inequality, with people's superstitious beliefs around their wealth and their dynamic, and how also wealthy people in this particular world view the world in a entirely different paradigm than what most normal people have to deal with
through stupid parlor games.
through parlor games, and I wondered if the social critique could go even further. For example, like a film like Get Out did. Get Out has that sort of amazing final moment where we see the flashing of blue lights, and we know that has a broader social implication to the film. And I wondered if this film could go there, but it's not a gripe as much as I'm just so excited by what this film was.
Well, it sounds like it's a bit of a balancing act for you too, because you say that it didn't outstay its welcome, but you also kind of wanted a little bit. It would have been nice if it sort of did a little bit more outside of the thing. Like,
you're right. You're absolutely right.
But it's a balancing act, right? Like it's, and that I think is the sign of a film that I think did its job to the best of its ability. And that's not to say I'm not trying to put this in a lower weight class or anything like that. It's just this movie, I guess I'll get to my stuff now, is super, super fun.
Yeah.
I had a very good time. It's a fun and silly premise. I really liked the cast. Everyone was wonderful. We'll get into some specialties later. Oh, I loved the aunt. I loved the aunt so much. Also, it was shot really nice. Solid editing. The set design of the mansion in particular was real nice.
Yeah.
The lighting. You said this last time, but I'm going to steal it now. The lighting. It was the film was like dark, but never too dark. Again, it rode that knife's edge of like it never felt like you were straining your eyes watching the movie to see what was going on, but the way that it handled contrast and the light levels was just very, very masterful. I really appreciated that. I did like how, and it's fortuitous you brought up Get Out, because I did like in how, the world of sort of like crazy family movies, and I'm talking like this could be from Get Out to even back to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
The bad family, the crazy family, whoever they are, normally they're pure, super skillful psychopaths. Like they're normal, and then they just snap, and they have like the eye swift to the side, and then they do their horrible deed. Where this movie, and this is getting a little into spoilers at this point, but the family who ends up, due to the fact they've made a deal with their great-grandfather made a deal with a man named LaBelle to get fame and fortune for their games or whatever. He'd fund whatever he wanted to do if they agreed that every time someone married into the family, they would put a card in a box, it's a Hellraiser box, and they'd have to play whatever game popped out. Some of them got chess, some of them got Connect 4, but if it's hide and seek, you have to take the person, the bride or the groom marrying into the family, and hunt them in your house. And you have to kill them before dawn, which gets a little tight. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the family who's doing the hunting are not seasoned killers, are not like psychopaths that like are so devoid of what I will call human flaw. They are bumbling. A lot of them don't really want to do it. Characters are sort of wishy-washy about the entire thing. They don't even know if, like, because the rumor is that they'll all die if they can't kill her before the end of, before dawn.
Yeah.
But they don't know for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, the aunt, oh my gosh, played by, I got to get her name because she was so good, Aunt Helena, by Nikki Guadagnini. I butchered that.
Guadini.
Yeah, Guadini. Is the only one who has done this sort of before and had to kill her would-be husband.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the most badass like woman with like this stark, Tim Burton-esque pushed back spike hair. And she's got a fucking battle axe. She's all about it.
Yeah.
But everyone else has their moments of wavering. They all actually kind of like Grace, which makes it more complicated. Anyway, I like.
And I think they're all like well, not all, but there is a conflictedness about whether they should do this.
And they're not good at it. That's my point. Like they bumble. They kill. I mean, again, now we're in spoilers full on. They kill 2 maids by accident. And like they end up hurting each other a lot of times worse than they ever hurt Grace. In fact, and I won't even spoil this little part, but even a person that was completely uninvolved is the only person to really wound Grace first.
Right.
So I don't know. It was a breath of fresh air. However, I will say that the weakness for me on this side was a little bit in the dialogue. I thought that it felt a little underbaked in certain spots. It felt like it just needed like a couple more passes just to, again, story and beats, rock and roll. But this was more like, it felt like there were moments, especially when there was characters screaming like expletives at things. It felt a little, or characters like very emotional in certain spots. It felt like they might want to like maybe reined in the actors from doing some improv maybe, or just the level of like what they were saying, like a lot of times just felt sillier than the movie even was trying to be.
I think what you're getting at is that whether a person would be genuinely terrified enough or cognizant enough to swear with such grace and finesse,
maybe, or to be the wordsmith, of all that jazz, and then let's not even forget that they said the actual word family so much in this script. I half expected Dominic Toretto and Letty to roll up and try to get Grace out of there, and she could become their new family now.
Oh boy, that would be the cinematic universe that we've all been waiting for.
I can't wait.
Is it at this stage we just basically want every movie to be a Fast and the Furious movie?
Sure. No.
Even Jason Jason
X.
Yeah, Jason X takes Jason.
I mean, you know, Fast and the Furious is going to space. You know that, right?
Oh, and that's where they'll meet Jason.
I hope so.
And he wants to get back to Earth now.
Dare to dream. No, this was a fun movie. It's just it did have those sort of issues for me.
There's one thing I want to just jump into before we go into full details, but that I think to me one of the richest parts of this movie is the way in which the entire thematic element of the thematic anxiety of being married into a new family, the thematic element of the anxiety around wealth inequality and where's my place in all of this, and really going into like a different kind of spectrum of the world that you live in. All of that is coalesced around one design element in this film, and that is Grace's dress. I think that I love that the design of the dress has this sort of antiquated feeling to it. It's this sort of like, even you said it felt like it was from an old timey.
It looked like an old western. I was picturing Red Dead Redemption. I was like, oh, this cowgirl's been through some shit.
But the first thing that happens is she has to get rid of the shoes. As soon as she gets rid of the shoes, she tears off the bottom of the dress so she can run faster. The dress is suddenly adapted in that way. Then she actually starts using part of the dress to like use it as bandage wounds.
Falls in a corpse pit, gets all brown.
Yeah, and she has to like repurpose some of the dress. Her arm comes off, and she starts to feel a little bit more like a commando, from Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie.
Yep.
I love that the dress takes on the personality of where she's at in the film, and it has to be tracked all the way through, and it's consistently tracked in sort of a fun way. And the image of her wearing Converse sneakers while in this sort of half, the bottom of the dress is torn away, but with shotgun shells wrapped around her, I think is such a beautiful image for what this movie is trying to say in terms of that anxiety around wealth and like coming into a new family and fighting your way back and like owning your position. The film that it really made me think about, and I know we mentioned this earlier in the day, but it really just reminded me of Die Hard. Like, it really reminded me of that, the way in which Bruce Willis comes in. He's inappropriately dressed for the Nakatomi, Christmas function. His wardrobe gets slowly, like he's using part of his wardrobe in order to fight back. It becomes a big deal that he lifts his shoes up in the pool. It's a real story element, and it's story and character all coalesced into one thing.
Welcome to the party, pal.
And I think that's such a smart piece of filmmaking, and it really landed for me. It really crystallized why this film was kind of like firing on all cylinders.
And it also did what all good horror does, and it takes a very relatable human experience, and that would be, in this case, entering a new family, especially if you're a person that comes from a small family or almost sort of no blood family anyway. And when you're entering into a marriage or in one of those sort of things, that's a terrifying moment. It's like a naturally nervous and terror-inducing moment. Like, will they accept me? Do I belong here? Etc. etc. But then this movie obviously does what all great horror does and elevates it to the point with, they'll accept you maybe, but they're going to hunt you for about 8 hours.
Well, I love the idea that there's a big what if in this film, which is that they're not entirely certain that they will need to hunt her, and the
family isn't. Some of them
aren't. Until the card gets drawn, they're all like,
yes.
Like Andy McDowell's character is actually like trying to, she wants Grace's character to ultimately bring Alex back into the fold because Alex has left the family because he doesn't.
The husband of Grace.
Yeah, and so none of them are actually certain. I think at least they're hoping that they don't have to actually go through with this and then once they do, they're ready at the drop of a hat to go because they have this belief structure in place.
So the dialogue leads us to believe that they 100% what you said. They could go anyway and they don't want it to or whatever. But the way the dialogue is spoken and the way that the actors play a lot of these scenes, they do come off as overly creepy before they have to. The aunt is in the room when they're first making out after the wedding, and she's like, "You're gonna have to hide better than that." And
the aunt's
all about it.
Yeah.
Yes, but even like when they first bring Grace down, they're all like stoic as fuck, and they're all got that weird like. That's when they were like the most like old school, like any of these other families that I mentioned. Like, and now we're in a cult. Here is the story of how our cult began, and now as tradition we must play the game. Like they're very dramatic about it, whereas if they like, I just felt that was a little bit disparate.
Well, I wondered if that kind of plays to the idea that they have an entirely different worldview. You know, like I don't know if you've like been around very, 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 very wealthy people.
I actually have. Weirdly enough, my socioeconomic status was growing up, I was the low to middle class family in a very affluent, like we were on the edge of the town.
Yeah.
And I went to a good high school and all that jazz. But like whenever I went over to my friends' houses, I was very aware how poor we were.
Well, it's not that. Like, so again, I have a couple of friends who happen to be very wealthy, and they're actually great friends. You know, like they're people that I actually love.
They didn't try to murder you?
No, they didn't try.
Oh, but you never tried to marry into them.
Unless it's the long con, and like they're just really waiting to ripen me up.
Give it time.
Yeah, maybe that's the deal. But what I wonder about in terms of that sort of antiquity that they have, you know, I've said that word a few times on this episode, but the idea that they have this sort of old tradition, you know, like this sort of passed down tradition, you know, is based in their worldview, and it speaks to the fact that they don't view the world on the same terms, which is that they don't have to deal with the sort of everyday in the way that you and I would have to. You know, like they don't have to. You know, I've always said one of the great equalizers in New York City is the subway. Right. And if you don't ever take the subway, your ability to interact with people is entirely limited. And like, you know, like people who don't use the subway in New York have an entirely different mentality about what New York City is.
About what New York is. Yeah. If you can afford to take cabs all over the place, or dare I say, if you get in a socioeconomic bracket where you can take like Blades and shit, like that. Blades is the Uber of helicopters.
Yeah, right. If you're, like when people fly to the Hamptons kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have a different worldview.
Oh, I want to fly to the Hamptons.
You know, like we see that all the time. And I wonder about that sort of, that ritual where they're like, well, this is our world. This is what we do. And for them, it's been entirely successful because they've maintained this sort of generational wealth over time. And it speaks to, I guess, the myth of meritocracy, I guess, in many ways. You know, like it's not for them. It's about that's what I think this film really is speaking towards, is that this is about generational wealth that is not earned but maintained, but
merely bargained from a great grandfather talking to a man on a merchant fishing vessel that makes him a deal to fund his board game.
Right. And then, but for the family that we're actually watching, the current,
the whatevers,
Las Damas, they're the inheritors of all of that wealth. They didn't have to make that bargain,
but they've been keeping it up with Mr. LaBelle.
Yeah,
and Mr. LaBelle, straight up, you know, we find out as we go, is the devil.
Is LaBelle the devil?
Or a demon. I mean, listen, here's the deal.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into full, but I wanted to say something else. I'll go back to it.
Yeah.
Man, the order of this podcast is way off from my brain in this morning, but no one knows. Don't say it out loud.
Okay, I won't say it out loud.
Okay. So
wait, say that again.
There's a part at the end of the movie when they've all sort of like scrapped around and they've captured her once she's gotten away, and they're about to sacrifice her, and they've been doing chants and they've been doing whatever. Before they had her on a pentagram table. This was now in an office because they just had to like make do with what they had.
Yeah.
Because the dawn was coming very soon. They went from just having creepy rituals to like basically all screaming "Hail Satan."
Right.
And that was a moment that was a little bit knocked back for me, because the rest of the time they could have very well thought it was a different entity or a demon or like whatever, and nothing they've done so far was, I mean, satanic. It felt very like, okay, now it felt like the movie stepped a little too far for what it was trying to do, and it weakened the whole thing just slightly for me. It is not a reason to not go see it or any of that reason, but like I was just like, okay, so now everyone's just like real down with Satan. I was like, before you were tiptoeing around this pretty fucking hard, and now all of a sudden your entire crew is chanting "Hell Satan."
Well, I think, and we discussed this earlier today.
Yeah,
I'm not calling it out, but I'm just mentioning it. But
I had the same passion before.
Yeah. With the fact that shouting "Hail Satan" for this family kind of means that they have an ideological point of view about the world order. Like people don't like if you're just trying to maintain your wealth point, you might say it without much conviction.
Yeah.
Or
there was conviction here,
Yeah,
so it played a little against what the script and what their previous actions were saying. It was a little despondent, not crazy. So
well, because I think the thing is also is that there's a certain sense of doubt in whether this is actually like no one's. There's only one member of the family that has actually seen LaBelle. And that's Alex, and they've decided he is the anointed one because of it. You know what this film really reminded me of a lot? This is the funhouse, and I think more fun version of Midsommar. It's the boy. It's not quite the same dynamic, but it is about this sort of like ritualistic environment that a young woman gets dragged into and has to fight her way out of because of her shitty boyfriend.
It's escape room mixed with Midsommar.
Yeah, it is
because of her shitty boyfriend.
Because of her this is the thing. I was not on board for Alex the whole movie.
You knew he was gonna flip.
You kind of knew he was gonna flip, and I was like. Dude, I was just a Grace. I was like, bruh.
And also,
bruh.
how do you
bring someone into this environment?
Yeah, after you left it because of this, and now you're like, well, I guess maybe she'll pick Parcheesi.
Yeah, and then we'll be good until the next time someone brings someone in.
Also, why is the only murder game hide and seek?
Yeah, I know. I was like, what could it be? Could it be chess?
I don't know, but that song,
murder chess?
that song we played in the beginning of this episode is the song that they play to give her the 100 count to go hide. And also, kudos to this film for using the old devil.
Yeah,
old devil is like he's wearing like a bathrobe and he's always smoking. He's just having fun and singing, "Run, run, run! I'm going to go find you." And it's just like having fun with being evil, almost in like a weird sort of nonsense old animated fashion.
Is it because the old school devil doesn't have to convince people that?
You don't have to prove shit.
Yeah, it's just like I can just do things.
Yeah,
and
now it's all about belief. I think you said earlier before.
Yeah, now the devil's got to convince you that they're less shitty than a dictator in a third world country.
Old devil, all about old devil.
Yeah.
I am here for old devil. And Mr. LaBelle did not disappoint.
You know who should play LaBelle if there's a sequel to this?
Who?
Pacino.
No,
Pacino all the way.
He was great in Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate.
I want LaBelle to be more the guy who played Joker in the Batman 1967.
Oh, Cesar Romero.
Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
I want that devil.
Right.
I want
kind of tickly,
old timey devil.
Yeah, kind of like the devil you could potentially leave your kids with and hang out. They would look out
for a half hour.
But the
until
devil wouldn't
bad
kill
happened.
your kids; it would convert them into more evil.
Yeah,
and
it would have fun doing it. It wouldn't just be all about the evil. It'd be all about the selffulness that actual Satanism really is about.
The funny thing is, I think this devil is I guess maybe this is the part of the social commentary that I thought would have been interesting. This devil seemed content to kind of sit back and let the family implode.
Yeah, because he made the deal.
He made the deal, and I was kind of excited if maybe this would have been interesting. Maybe not. Maybe not. This sounds like bad ideas as I'm saying them out loud. But
good.
If the idea was that we never really were sure that there was a devil, because I love that moment at the end of the film where basically, they draw back the curtains and then they're squinched up, thinking, oh, am I gonna vampire out of this whole scenario? And then they realize that they're not. But then I would have loved if, interestingly, they kind of create the scenario that gets them killed as opposed to just magically disappearing. And then we see the devil. It was like the devil wasn't really, or, LaBelle wasn't really pulling the strings as much as their own belief structure kind of created the strings.
He was just emceeing the event.
Yeah. He was just he wasn't
a production manager.
He was a dungeon master that kind of somewhat got involved, but really just stayed out of it.
I don't know if that reference is correct, but that's okay. You don't play a lot of tabletop RPGs. I appreciate the effort.
Yeah. I was trying. I really did it for you.
I know, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I wondered, if that was part of the social commentary that I was I kind of wondered if it got lost or it's just not quite as strong. Given that, the other reason I was excited to do this film is that, Craig Zobel's film, The Hunt, was a film that we've been discussing already because it was a film that was, essentially has a little bit of the most dangerous game kind of element to it.
Yep.
But for some reason mentions the words deplorables, and now it's, going to be yanked from the face of existence. Whereas this film kind of snuck in with this sort of class consciousness at the heart of it.
It's almost almost as if you don't really spell out exactly what you're doing in these simplest block letters, maybe someone who would have a problem with it wouldn't quite notice.
So, like, you could re-release, you basically scratch off the title and literally in pencil.
Yeah,
scratch off
Sharpie, in Sharpie.
In Sharpie, scratch off The Hunt and replace it with...
Hunters.
Hunters, yeah. Just scratch off the and add an ERS, and then you're like, it's a different movie.
It's a great film.
It's a great
best film. Beautiful film.
Or even just dub over the word deplorables with like.
You don't even have to. You think he's going to spend the time? You think he's going to spend the time? No.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, we don't have anything to distract us with right now.
No.
Anyway, my point here is, I had such a great
Did
time.
you?
I had such a great time with Ready or Not. I think Ready or Not is. It's funny because I think its ambitions aren't lofty. But the what it does so well and is so well executed that I think that's just a wonderful testament to like knowing how to pitch this film in such a smart way.
Well, you said something the first time we recorded this podcast that I want to make sure you
don't mention.
Oh, I mean, then how do I bring this up that I knew you knew this, but then you told me
don't mention that I mentioned it before.
Oh,
like pretend we're just met.
Oh, so hello.
Hey.
I heard that in Ready or Not, it was made by a group of younger filmmakers who sometimes swap roles depending on what type of film it is. Is that true?
That sounds like something a real handsome person would say.
Whatever. Tell the story. I just wanted to get to it because it was an interesting piece of trivia about the filmmakers about this film.
So the directors of Ready or Not are Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. Gillett.
Best a man can get. Just get it right.
Yeah, they're part of the Gillett dynasty. No, the
Dominion.
The Gillett Dominion. But they're part of a film collective called Radio Silence, who I believe have the sort of interchangeable role swaps between themselves as they make films. Now, the last couple of films they made VHS and Southbound, which I believe are both anthology films. And this, I don't believe this is the first like full out just non-anthology based film that they've made. But I think that they're kind of creating this interesting collective and dynamic where they can switch out depending on
right.
how they work. And I look, I don't know the exact inner workings of how Radio Silence, the collective works, or if it's even a collective, or as opposed to just, a group of people that like working together. But I think, there's something about the way this is put together that feels so well cognizant of what it is that they're trying to achieve, and they achieve it so well. And it has it's built on the tapestry of social commentary so well, but that it manages to get where it's going really efficiently. Now, I kind of just wondered if the social commentary could be more pointed, or could be broader, or could really speak to the world we live in now. Because if you think about, again, The Hunt versus this film, it kind of speaks to this idea that we're in a, and even we discussed earlier, the Purge. It speaks to like
earlier the first time. You didn't miss anything in this recording.
Yeah. But we're speaking to a sort of place in cinema right now. It's reflecting our sort of political and cultural reality, which has to do with class divide. It has to do with certain divisions between groups that is fairly pronounced. Much as like George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, had that sort of class consciousness, racial dynamic to it. I think these films are kind of speaking to a broader class divide. Now, I think a film like Get Out really speaks powerfully to the world we live in terms of racial dynamics. But this film kind of uses that as an effective tapestry to hang a really fun ride on, and I think that is such a thrill to watch, and I'm excited that we got to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had a very good time. Not even in spite of, almost because of you, Carrie Bradshaw. This movie hard. You couldn't help but wonder.
Is that what Carrie Bradshaw?
She writes that in all of her columns. I couldn't help but wonder.
See, I'm not.
Was everybody having sex but me? Like that's the sort of like. It's always I couldn't help but wonder.
I couldn't help.
Sex and the City is a great fucking show. If you ever watch Sex and the City, you should watch Sex and the City.
I couldn't help but wonder if the family in Ready or Not ever got into orgies. Because like once you've breached the
that's a stretch.
Once you've breached the boundary of death, I think it's like all bets are off.
Once
right?
You've breached the boundary of death, what What edgelord handbook did you pull this from?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like-
Once you breach the boundary of death,
Like a family has decided that killing people is okay.
they reluctantly did.
Well, they seem
doing it.
they've done it. Like I'm just wondering, like
I would-
what other boundaries fall away?
Well, I think
and they're also extraordinarily wealthy who see the world in a different way.
what I'm saying is, I think orgy in the idea of like adventurous things, I would hope orgy comes before murder in your list of what you're
Really?
building to. Yeah, one doesn't hurt people, and the other one lets people die.
I don't know, man. I don't think you want to be in an orgy with your aunt in the room. Is what I'm saying. So my thing here is I think
You're getting weird.
I think the threshold of like what's acceptable goes out the window once you've decided killing people's okay.
I don't even know where to begin. This is a real fucked up sort of equation you're forming.
I'm just saying, for this family, they look at shit very differently.
But wouldn't it anyway? I'm just saying, sexual deviance probably not even deviance, just uncommon sexual behavior probably comes before murder. In the I'm so rich I can do whatever I want.
I think what you're saying is in the morality of the universe. Yes, of course, sexual deviancy comes lesser than murder, but I'm saying that this family might just look at the world entirely differently because they're cool with murdering people.
So now they're gonna do.
Yeah,
No, I think it happened before.
Like
if
they're hailing
Why are
Satan-
we talking about
they're-
this?
if they're-
This wasn't in the first podcast.
if they're hailing Satan, they're probably
Do
like,
we
yeah,
have
doing all
that's
sorts of
not
shit.
no that's
Didn't you
just
see Rosemary's Baby?
That's not what Satan anyway. What other point? Do you have any other points? I like the movie.
I got no points.
I think this movie was fun. I think you should go see it.
I'm like the dull points of a pentagram.
I think it had that doesn't also make sense. We need to stop this. I thought the movie was really fun. Again, the only thing I thought was some slight scripting problems and some tonal disjointing based around basically like characters sort of flip-flopping every once in a while a little too quickly, or the way they acted versus the way they said things. And other like if that movie had like maybe like if this movie had like maybe another revision or two, I think it could have gotten to like a Cabin in the Woods status for me. Like a really amazing, like not only like super fun time that definitely has the lattice work of social context within it, but like actually have a full dressed up thing or like a building built around. Like it just could have and this is one of those interesting situations where a lot of times when I see a movie that has potential, I get upset that it didn't quite reach that potential. I'm like, oh, you could have done this thing. And then I have a more negative effect about it. That's not what happened here. This is a yes and movie, not a no but, if we're talking in improv terms.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it a lot, and I would love it. I would have even loved it more maybe if they were like, oh, what about if you also did this? But it's definitely not necessary. You should 100% go see this film. It's going to be in theaters probably in the next couple weeks, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be a huge theater, though it did make money.
Yeah, this thing cost $6 million and is made in the vicinity of $26 million right now. So I'm guessing, even though I don't really want to see a sequel.
I don't either.
But I think there is worlds to explore within this conceit that I think if you really played for it in interesting ways, you may be able to extrapolate this out. I'm kind of on the. I agree with you that like Cabin in the Woods is kind of extraordinary and Get Out is pretty amazing as well. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say. This should necessarily go through more drafts. I like what they did here, and I think what they did, here is a real, amazing achievement, and I think it speaks to some real smarts behind the camera.
Yeah.
I just think I'm so excited by how well they pulled off this conceit that I wonder where it could go. But it doesn't have to go anywhere. I think it's doing such a good job at where it's at right now.
We were so excited about this film. We just recorded this podcast for you a second time.
We did it twice.
This,
Ready or not.
This has been the only podcast about Ready or Not. Actually, not true, because I have another copy of this podcast. So this is the only time we've ever lied to you.
Hey, here, let me posit a question for you.
Sure.
What if we have to do it a third time?
Oh, fuck.
What do we do? And like, do we start making commentaries about the commentaries that
Yes.
we've already made?
Yes.
And then could we flash back to the commentaries that we were?
I mean, we could play a garbage sounding spot. Yeah. Sure. But
that would be amazing.
Shahir, when you aren't ready or not, and when you can't hide, and I have to find you, where can folks find you?
You can find me at my website at, this is the worst game of hide and seek ever because I'm just like, hey, he's in here. www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com. Matt, when you are feeling the echoes of a previous conversation that we've just had today, where can people find you reliving your past memories?
You can find me hailing the old-timey devil at MATTHEWKROL.com for my life and works. Also, Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter. You can also find me in the good works we are doing over at Extra Credits. We just dropped actually a video I find very poignant for my day today. We've dropped one called The Rebuilding Year, which is basically about how, if you realize you're not going to win something or get to a goal, or life has sort of moved you in a different direction, you need to just pick yourself up and realize it's okay, and do whatever you can to make sure that you go for that championship at a later point. If you can't do it this year and get the championship in a sports team, prepare your team so you have a better chance next year if you know you can't do it.
Especially if you forget what you were doing and you Groundhog Day yourself back into a scenario.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also, we're finishing up the Inca Empire over there. We have a couple other good stuff. Ooh, a special episode I can't even talk about comes out next Thursday. So
by the time this,
by
the time we have to re-record this, it'll probably be out. So
Shut up!
On the third or fourth version.
I don't need this. Anyway, tune in next week when we speak at
when
you
we're
about
still reviewing Ready or Not.
Well, I was just going to say, we don't actually know what we're doing next week, and I love that toss. I come back next week for a movie.
Yeah, for a movie, any movie.
It could be any movie.
Write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod.
Leave us stars, 5 stars preferably on the iTunes store, because it helps us. And listen, if you've gone this far into this podcast and you know it's going to end in the next minute, I think you might like us enough to leave us a nice review on there. It helps people see us, and then we can keep doing podcasts over again, more or less.
You know what would be really interesting? If somehow we deleted the entire archive of all our podcasts and had to re-record them Swede style. Do you remember that movie Be Kind, Rewind?
Yeah, I gotta go.
We had to do all of that again.
That's the most depressing thought I think I've ever heard in my entire life. We will hear from you hopefully next week, as you will hear from us.
Yeah, maybe. Why not? Maybe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.